Now you got the voices down.
Now we got the voices down.
Now we got the voices down.
Now we got the voices
And for those
down.
of you who are hearing impaired, why are you listening to radio? Doesn't make sense.
But at any rate, Dave, yeah, as you mentioned, there are 5 rights in the First Amendment, and strangely enough, the only about 1 out of every 1,000 Americans can name all rights, all 5 of them.
Yeah. Well, no, I missed press. I forgot to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got 4.
So you got 4 out of 5, and that was an unusual combination because most people get them. What's the first one, Gretchen?
Speech.
Nope.
No.
Oh, it's not? Religion?
There you go. Religion
Okay.
is first.
Which is interesting. Freedom of religion is one of the. See, this is why I think this is a very interesting topic. The government has really. And I can't say the word I was going to say. I can't say a B word.
Yeah, you can.
Bastardized?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
Oh,
do that.
okay.
Okay, we can do that.
So I guess George said, okay. The government's bastardized that because they've taken it to the point where you can't express religion at all.
Yeah,
And that's not what it says.
That's not what it says. We have freedom of religion, not freedom from religion,
Exactly.
and that's the big difference. And of course, there's kind of even though we kind of class religion as one of the 5 rights. It actually there's two elements to it. One is of course the Establishment Clause, and the other one is the Free Exercise Clause. The Establishment Clause is that government cannot establish a religion. And the second portion is that government cannot interfere with your exercise of your religion.
Which is the part they tend to forget.
They tend to forget most of it.
I remember as a kid there were mangers everywhere, even in public buildings and stuff. They'd have mangers set up, and that's all basically gone. I mean, you don't see that much anymore.
No, you don't see that much anymore. Even though the fact is that the Ten Commandments are inscribed on the
Supreme
entrance
Court.
to the Supreme Court. Exactly. Although they made the Alabama Chief Justice remove the 10 Commandments from the Alabama Supreme Court entryway.
That was part of the Great Purge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's they're moving more on to freedom from religion rather than freedom of religion, which is not what it was ever designed to do.
And there have been teachers that have even taken kids to the woodshed if they prayed silently in class. I mean, just any visible expression of religion, even if you're not bothering anybody else in the process, is like become taboo.
Well, in about 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court heard a case regarding a football coach that was praying in the middle of the field at the end of the game.
Oh, right.
And his prayer was a silent prayer. If people wanted to join him, they could. If they didn't want to join him, they didn't have to. And typically, it was more. He was giving thanks for the kids having come through the game safely. It had nothing to do with who won or who lost. But at any rate, the school fired him, and it's taken 6 years to get to the Supreme Court. They fired him for saying a prayer on the middle of the field silently. And as it turns out, that's kind of an interesting case too, because he was doing it. He'd been doing it for an extended period of time, and then an opposing coach called his school and said, that's just really a nice thing that he's doing. They didn't even know about it till the opposing coach called to give them a compliment and give him a compliment.
Wow.
And then shortly thereafter, they fired him, thinking that what he was doing was a violation of the Establishment Clause.
Right.
And of course, it's a public high school. And that is probably one of the better arguments for doing away with public schools.
One of many.
Yeah, one of many.
There are many.
Yeah.
I made several in the Illinois shooter. Just make a little plug for myself.
You made it for doing away with public schools.
I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, if all of them are private schools, then
They're accountable.
Their favorite, they can do whatever they wish on this issue.
Yeah. Well, you frequently see pictures of military in a circle praying. That's not uncommon. And there have been people who have seen those like on Facebook and said, well, they can't do that. It's against the law. Well, no, it's not. Most people can get together and pray if they want to. So I've always found that one an interesting one. The next one is freedom of speech. And this I think is probably the most misunderstood of all. I really do. Freedom of speech, as I said earlier, we had a kid call 911, and we all go running out to see what it is. He said his mother was abusing him. When we got there, he was saying something that his mother didn't like, and said you couldn't say it. And he's going, well, she's violating my freedom of speech. Where is there freedom of speech? You're guaranteed.
You're guaranteed to not have the government interfere with your speech.
Exactly.
Your employer is free to set whatever limits the employer is paying you. The employer can say, "Do say this" or "Don't say that," within the context of your employment. The most famous recent case, of course, is Colin Kaepernick.
Sure.
And Colin Kaepernick, certainly the San Francisco 49ers are free to tell their players to stand for the national anthem if that's part and parcel of their job, or to not stand or do whatever they want. They're getting paid to be there, and
part of their job.
And once they're on the field, that's within the terms of their employment.
And he's wearing a uniform while doing it, so certainly he's on duty,
Right.
if you will.
And it's not a government limitation.
He's suited up in the uniform. He's ready to perform his job, and yeah, at that point, I would say he's on their stage, and they can tell him what he can and cannot do.
An employer has the right, for instance, to say, "I don't want you can't talk about politics at work."
Right.
I mean, that's well within their right to
Correct.
say that. This is the work environment. You don't like the job, then don't take it. But we don't want you to talk about politics in there. There's a freedom of speech. Reagan had a great joke about how Russian and American were comparing their countries, and the American said, "I can walk into the president's office and I can say to him," this was under Reagan, he said, "Under President Reagan, I don't like the way you're running the country, and I can do that." And the Russian said, "I can do that." And he goes, "You can in Russia?" And he goes, "I can walk into the Politburo and I can walk up to whoever it was at the time, I can't remember, and I can say,
Gorbachev.
Gorbachev. Yeah, it's Gorbachev.
Yeah, Mr. Gorbachev, I don't like the way Ronald Reagan is running his country." So that's that whole freedom of speech thing. It really gets overworked. The most probably famous example that people always use is the one about, well, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, which is interesting. But tell the background of that.
Well, the background on that is that, in terms of speech within the confines of the First Amendment, it's actually what they're talking about is something that expresses an idea, communicates a thought for the purpose of kind of either political or commercial discussion. There's also protections for commercial speech. When you yell fire in the theater, it's not really actually speech. It's more like an action. It would be no different than, say, waving a flag that's saying, there's a fire. It's an act. So things that are actions that are meant to communicate a status or a situation are not speech for the purposes of the First Amendment. So yelling fire, particularly, of course, there's the whole thing about false speech. We were
Defamation and slander. There's limitations as to that because it's not true speech.
Sure.
That's the distinction.
Yeah, those aren't protected speech for that purpose either. When you say when you tell a lie about somebody and that injures them in their profession or their personal life, that's not speech for the purposes of the First Amendment. So, just because it comes out of your mouth doesn't make it speech. On the other hand, other things are like symbolic speech. If you wear a T-shirt that says "F the war," that's protected.
That's speech. Right.
That's protected political speech.
Sure.
So it's very curious.
The interesting thing, the case that was behind all it was Schenck, which is early 1900s, something like that, and it had nothing to do with theaters. It had nothing to do with anything. He was actually a socialist, and he was arguing against the draft. That's what it was, and they got him on not treason, but they got him on something. I can't remember what, but espionage, I think. And that's the whole thing sort of came out of that. We're going to have to take a break, but we want to hit the rest of them when we come back. We've got freedom of the press, the right to assemble, and the redress of grievances, one which is interesting. That we saw on, what was it, January 6th or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly petitioning for redress of grievances.
No, it wasn't. They were creating a grievance. But anyway.
Yeah, they had some grievances.
We'll talk about that one, too, for sure. But, yeah, it's a very interesting thing, the First Amendment. So, well, we're going to take a break. When we come back with more on Target Radio, and you're listening to AM560
The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
You can't have a block party.
Without Chug Chug the comeback clown?
No, although that's a good feature. You can't fill out a block party application if you don't have your COVID captain.
You have to have a COVID captain?
Well, who's going to fill out the COVID safety affirmation form?
Oh, this is getting good.
You
I don't know if I have time for that, but...
Well, you're going to make time if you want a block party.
Start your day with Chicago's Morning Answer. Weekday mornings starting at 5 on AM560 The Answer.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. AM560 On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I definitely think it's a good product. Definitely worth keeping. You know, I've had all kinds of conversations with these nutritionists. I've asked them about products like yours, and they'll say, oh, well, we don't want you to take that. We just want you to eat all these vegetables and fruit. And I said, you know, you're talking to somebody here that hates fruit, and I will tolerate some vegetables. I think it only makes sense. There's no way I could eat enough fruit and vegetables to equal what this product is providing, is the way I look at it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature right now. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com for more information or to place your order. Shipping is always free. And don't forget to get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Spring means new beginnings and growth. So let's get your business's seeds planted with Salem Surround. Let us help your website bring you the leads your business needs to thrive. Let's make sure people find you faster and easier on the web. Our amazing team of media strategists are here to serve you with boots on the ground and real-world expertise. We live right here and know the communities you're trying to reach. We're media strategists, and we're very, very good at what we do. So let's grow together.
Visit surroundchicago.com today.
In 2008, I wrote The Dumbest Generation. This is Mark Bauerlein. The millennials I wrote about have grown up now with little faith, patriotism, knowledge, art and literature, civics, without purpose and looking to fill the void. They found the answer in utopian dreams of perfect justice and universal happiness that will only disappoint them. My new book, The Dumbest Generation Grows Up, From Stupefied Youth to Dangerous Adults, lays out the wreckage and shows how to rescue the next generation.
Get Mark Bauerlein's timely new book, The Dumbest Generation Grows Up, wherever books are sold.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. Our guests this evening are Christopher Van Cook and David Shestokas. Both attorneys, both capable of talking us into the break, so we're good. We're talking about the First Amendment, and we talked a little bit about the establishment of religion, and the government can't make laws pertaining to establishing a religion, and freedom of speech. Freedom of press is the next one, which I find this interesting because this is where they've really gone off the rails, I think. Which, by the way, did you hear that Biden is talking about getting a, what do they call it? It's like a Ministry of Disinformation or something?
Yep.
I think he already did it, didn't he?
The Disinformation Governance Board.
There you go.
The DGB, which
Yeah.
sounds a whole lot like KGB.
Yeah. What does that sound like?
So their job is to root out untruths, i.e. anything against the Biden administration, and censor it. Basically.
Yes, and you know who they put in charge, right?
No.
There's this woman who determined that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, that it was not true.
Yeah. That reminds me of, did you wipe the server clean? What, like with a towel?
Like with a towel? Yeah.
Oh, my God.
With
yeah.
a rag, yeah. So, no, she's in charge of the Disinformation Governance Board, the DGB. And that you don't get much more imposing on freedom of the
How
press.
can they even get away with that?
I don't think they can. I don't think they can. As we know, and we're going to talk about later, that I'm running for Attorney General, but 20 attorneys general from around the country have now sent a note to the Biden folks, indicating that if they in fact go forward with this, there will be a lawsuit from the states regarding the illegality of the creation of a disinformation board.
Excellent.
So and if by any chance, just a shameless plug, if by any chance I were to be elected, I would join that suit.
The other interesting thing about freedom of the press in general is social media. It's disturbing that outfits like Facebook and that type just sort of arbitrarily cut people out. I mean, they just don't like what they're saying, and they say, "Well, it's factually not true." Well, that's your interpretation of what's true and what isn't.
But that comes back to something that we were talking about regarding freedom of speech, in terms of freedom of the press, and something like a Facebook or a Twitter. They are, in fact, ostensibly, at any rate, private companies.
And this is an argument that people always bring up. But let me say something about that. Bell Telephone was that way, and you know what happened to them? They got broken up.
Yes.
It's at some point, a privately owned thing, when it's essentially the only game in town, and it's huge, used by a large number of people, that they got to fall under something else. They can't get away with that.
They will eventually fall under something else, and the something else turns out to be some older case law that had to do with shopping malls. Shopping malls, generally speaking, are in fact private property.
Right.
But shopping malls also became essentially the town square, where there used to be a town square, and people would go to the square and they'd get up literally on a soapbox and they would talk to people. With the creation of shopping malls, town squares essentially ceased to exist, or were not functional as a great gathering place the same way shopping malls were. And through a series of lawsuits, shopping malls were more considered to be like a town square, and they could not prohibit people from expressing speech or distributing leaflets, as long as they were, civil, and as long as they were, following some legitimate protocols. It became difficult for shopping malls to control what kind of things took place on their property. This analogizes in the same fashion. As you say, it has become the primary game in town. And so to that extent, I would suggest that they become akin to the town square.
Sure.
And then have that kind of regulation available in terms of making it available to everybody, and that their content regulation should not be in their hands. They should be prohibited from doing this content regulation. They should be treated as if they were a government entity. And in many respects, Twitter and Facebook, when they went around suppressing people like the New York Post for publishing truthful information about Biden's laptop, about Hunter's laptop, they were in fact doing censorship consistent with the wishes of certain government entities.
Exactly.
So they were functioning as an arm of the government, and that actually is the basis of one of President Trump's lawsuits that he has pending. That he's pending now against several of these entities, that they were essentially functioning as an arm of the government.
The interesting thing about the press is, I think most of us think they're totally out of control. They just make stuff up. I mean, it's amazing. The line between editorial and news is totally gone. I mean, most of what you see on television and here on the radio is editorial. And if it's editorial, you can say whatever you want, but people take it as news.
That's the misconception nowadays.
It is, and that's a big deal. And you say that to somebody, and half the time they don't even understand what you're talking about. But that really started with 60 Minutes, where they made it look like news, but it was all editorial. And now the blur's gone completely. But the interesting thing is, if you look back, and you probably have done this, but I had a book about journalism during the days of the Founding Fathers. And if people think they're rough now, you ought to read this book. I mean, they would go, oh, yeah, Jefferson, oh, he killed a guy once. I mean, they made up outrageous stuff and printed it, and there was no one held their feet to the fire.
No one did hold their feet to the fire. There was, although, they had different things that they did in those days. And among them was a duel.
Shoot each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to hold you to fire. I'm going to hold you at fire.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing that happened between Hamilton and Burr.
Exactly.
And that there was their own remedies, to insults.
That was at Raymond Burr, right? They were in court. Anyway, it's.
Oh boy.
Oh, we got to have a little mirth. You got to have a little humor in a show.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it was Perry Mason or Ironsides either.
But freedom of the press means it used to be the press was the fourth estate. They were the ones that looked after the White House. They looked after the legislature, and they looked after the Supreme Court. They're in the bag. I mean, since 2 elections ago, I guess. I mean, they've been totally in the bag for
It
the
does seem that
Democrats.
way.
Yeah,
very clearly.
It's crazy, and anything, it's the Saul Alinsky thing. If you say it loud enough, often enough, it's truth, and people would take task with him, and they'd say you're a conspiracy theorist. They just dump on you until you got quiet and went away.
Yeah, no, they're clearly carrying the water for one particular political party, and they're pretending that they don't, which is kind of interesting, because of course when you talk about the founding era, in the founding era there were actually Democrat Republican newspapers, and they let you know that that's what they were.
Yeah.
They were Democrat Republican.
They were a
newspapers.
voice of, basically.
And they were a voice of the party, or the Federalists on the other team.
And the thing about the press in the early days is you didn't have radio, you didn't have television, so a candidate or someone that had a vested interest in politics couldn't get his word out, because what was he going to do? Travel all over the known country? So that's what newspapers did. A partisan newspaper gave the word to the people who they were supporting.
Well, yeah, but I tell you what, when it came to say a congressional district now is about 750,000 people. It was about 40,000 people in those days.
You just didn't have a lot of people.
Yeah, well, literally, you almost could talk to every voter in the course of 2 years that you needed to talk to.
Yeah.
So you weren't quite so dependent upon the press as we are now to talk to. If you're running statewide in Illinois, you're looking at 4 or 5 million voters.
Sure.
And so it's not possible to meet them all. So you got to work with the press one way or another.
Real quickly, the right of the people to peacefully assemble. We've only got about 30 seconds to do, but that didn't work out so well in Washington. Although most of those people, this is another thing that they've been hiding. Most of those people were not Republicans. They weren't conservatives. They were still listening to Trump. He was still talking when all that went on in the Capitol. Those that were mostly plants. I mean, they were people that were there to cause trouble.
Well, whether they were or they weren't, the people ultimately they got in trouble weren't peaceful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's to peaceably assemble, and so if you run afoul of the peaceful part, then you run afoul of the protection of the right.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll take up that subject again a little bit more, and we're going to talk about the redress of grievances, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your campaign and how things are going and what you're going to do. So all that more when we return with On Target Radio, and you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
The price of gas is out of control, and there's no end in sight. That's why AM560 and the Pride stores, not your typical convenience stores, want to ease your pain at the pump. For the entire month of May, we're giving away a $50 gas card every single weekday. These gas cards can be used at any one of the Pride store locations throughout Chicagoland. To enter, go to 560theanswer.com/gas. That's 560theanswer.com/gas.
It's a gas.
Fox News, I'm Rob Dawson. Heroism on display in Laguna Woods, California at a church during a deadly shooting. One person died, 4 others were hurt at Geneva Presbyterian Church, but it could have been worse if parishioners didn't step in and hogtie the suspected gunman.
I want to thank those people who were wise enough to take action and endanger themselves to save others in that church. That is so impressive.
Laguna Woods Mayor Carol Moore, the suspect is an Asian man in his 60s. And in Houston, 2 people are dead and 3 are hurt after a shooting at a flea market about 14 miles north of downtown.
There was multiple shots fired, and we believe there was probably at least 3 to 5 shooters.
Harris County Sheriff Major Susan Cotter, investigators say all the people involved were men in their 20s and appeared to know each other. America's listening to Fox News.
Do you like your gun range bag? There's a really cool local company here in Chicagoland that makes the finest range bags anywhere. And these quality range bags are so inexpensive that I bet you won't hesitate to buy one. The Hackett range bags from Hackett Equipment have it all. There are compartmentalized pouches that hold 2 or 4 pistols, ammo, mags, and even targets. Basically everything you need for a day at the range in a stealth design that doesn't resemble a range bag. Nobody will know you're carrying firearms. Additionally, they're super heavy duty and will last a lifetime because Hackett bags are 30% heavier than typical range bags. And the price is unreal. The large pack is under $100 and the small one under $80. But if you visit gunrangebags.com and use the promo code AM560, you'll save an additional 10%. Hackett Equipment bags really are range bags that can hack it. That's gunrangebags.com, promo code AM560. Gunrangebags.com. Do it now.
Hi friends, this is Katie Pavlich from townhall.com. The liberal media and big tech are working overtime to promote the left's anti-American agenda and silence me and the reporters on our team at Town Hall. We have to bring the truth to the American people, free from the spin of big media and the censorship of those big tech companies. We're constantly covering the news that matters, exposing the COVID lies, the leftist rot and crime surge in our cities, the illegal alien crisis at our southern border, and all of Joe Biden's unconstitutional overreach, including the critical race theory attacks on our children and grandchildren by school boards and the Department of Justice. I hope you'll support our vital team of conservative journalists today. You can do so by going to townhallaction.com. While cancel culture and big tech comes for us, the direct support of our VIP members helps make us uncancelable. Please join our team by becoming a VIP member at townhallaction.com. That's townhallaction.com.
The new administration has big plans for your health insurance, changes that can limit your choices. The Affordable Care Act created a one-size-fits-all plan. Healthcare is not a one-size-fits-all problem. The premise of the ACA is that coverage equals care. It does not. My name is Eric Wilson from ISA Health Incorporated, and I recently saved a family in their 50s almost $600 per month here in Chicago with your pro-life health plan. Act now. Protect yourself with a plan that cannot be canceled. This is a nationwide PPO which allows you to pick your doctors and hospitals. Start saving 30 to 60% today. If you are self-employed, purchase your own health insurance, or are uninsured, you can lock in a private plan managed by you, not the government. Call me, Eric Wilson, an expert with 17 years experience at 888-448-5370. That's 888-448-5370, or go to isellhealth.com. That's isellhealth.com, a conservative and affordable approach to healthcare. I look forward to speaking with you.
Dr. Gorka here, and you know me. I am very cynical about products, especially those that claim to help people suffering from pain. So when I tell you that Relief Factor truly works, I want you to know that I mean it. I suffered from a stiff lower back for almost a decade, one so painful it made it difficult to kneel in church on Sundays. When I finally decided to give Relief Factor a try, I didn't ever imagine that I would find myself free of the pain. But that's what happened. Now I take Relief Factor every day. Almost 70% of the more than 500,000 people who have tried Relief Factor end up ordering more. That's because it works for them the way it worked for me. Isn't it time for you to get out of pain? Your first step to becoming pain-free should be to order the 3-week quick start for the discounted price of only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF to find out more about this offer. Feel the difference.
We now return to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer. If you have a question or an opinion, share it with us at 312-642-5600. And now, debating, debunking, and discussing today's hot issues. Here are your hosts, David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz.
And we're back with On Target Radio. And our guests this evening are Christopher Von Cook and David Shestokas, both attorneys, and we are talking about the First Amendment. And when we left off, we just hit the press and talked a little bit about the press. I just think that the press has gone the other way. I mean, they're so unbridled now that you can't separate the truth from fiction.
Yeah, and part and parcel of that is that some time ago, about 50 years ago or so, there was a case called New York Times versus Sullivan.
Right.
And the Supreme Court went overboard in terms of providing protection on libel and defamation, libel, slander, and defamation for public figures. And so that they put together some rules that said you actually have to, if you say something that is bad about a public figure, somebody who's a public figure, you have to, for the public figure to prove that you either defamed or libeled them, they have to prove that you did that with what they call actual malice, or with actual knowledge that what you said was false, or that you were in reckless disregard for truth or falsity. And that whole set of rules made it virtually impossible for a public figure to sue somebody like a New York Times, Chicago Tribune, or any of the other media companies. And with that impossibility, they've been able to go over the top and say that different folks are pedophiles and things like that are public figures, and make it very, very difficult for those things to be reined in. And then the court went on to ultimately, over the years, expand what a public figure was. Not just people that entered the public domain on their own, but people that may have gotten some kind of publicity for doing other things, and they had never intended to be, like entering into the public square. And so they made this expansive, and so they created a legal situation where defamation or libel, the private rights of action to control the press, are almost non-existent for all practical purposes. And that's what's made the press have the ability to just go crazy and criticize everybody they want blatantly, without even really caring whether things are true or whether things are false.
A friend of mine's daughter did an internship at the New York Times. And she said every morning they have an editorial meeting. And over the door that they do this, the New York Times, there's a sign that says, New York Times, where we tell people what they're going to think for the day.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
They're just blatant about it.
And not only blatant, they went on this path of destruction of President Trump.
Sure.
And just all these things, this whole Russian thing, we know was never true to begin with, but they kept pounding away on it every day. They
say it loud enough, often enough.
Yeah, but nobody was in a position to hold them accountable for telling lies to the people.
This is a short segment, so I want to get on to it. The right to peaceably assemble. What would be an example, a fair example of that?
One of the more controversial examples that's happened over time is that you have to put up with things that you do not like. The most famous case in that regard was when the Nazis applied for permits to march in Skokie.
Right.
A march where there's a home of many Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
And as much as this was incredibly offensive, very something that most people in the world would not like, and the village of Skokie turned down their permits multiple times, Supreme Court ultimately said, no, you have to give them it. You have to give them the permit. And as long as they're peaceable, as long as they follow the rules, they can do heinous. They can spread a heinous message.
Yeah. And the last one is redress of grievances. And I think that's probably the one that most people don't remember. That was the first one I came out with, but that's the one I think most people don't even know exists. You got about a minute. Talk a little bit about redress of grievances.
Very, very quickly. Redress of grievances has a very interesting history. These first 5 rights are the all-stars of rights. Petition for redress of grievances, there used to be a tradition in the colonial times where they could, in fact, provide a petition to the legislature. The legislature had a duty to actually entertain your petition and give it like an up or down vote and send it to committees. Over time, this continued to be the case in all the legislatures around the country, including the Congress. In the 1850s, the Congress was inundated with petitions to abolish slavery. And the Democrats in charge of Congress ultimately abolished your right to petition for redress of grievances. And we haven't ever seen it since it was abolished because the Democrats didn't want to hear about slavery in the 1850s.
Yeah. So
today there's a lot of things they don't want to hear about, so it's convenient for them that that's never been brought back.
Yeah, it's very convenient. Well, that gives them the Disinformation Governance Board, It's the same kind of thing. But and there's a cautionary tale in that that's one right we did not defend, and we have in fact lost it. It's still listed. It's still written
listed,
there.
Yeah.
It's there, but it is not. Does not exist in the fashion that it was created.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to have to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about your plans, both of you. What's coming up for you guys, and I think that'll be interesting. Maybe, when was the last time we had a Republican in that office?
Jim Ryan, 20-some years ago.
So it'll be interesting. We'll talk a little bit about that when we return. And we'll be back with more on Target Radio, and you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
Hard drives fail. Viruses destroy data. Having a copy of your work, photographs, financial records, and other important files is one step in a thorough backup plan. Geekometrics offers a secure online solution by placing a copy of your data off-site where it's safe from theft, fire, and unauthorized access. Losing photos and financial information is devastating. Geekometrics' secure online backup solution is a reliable way to back up important files. The most common reasons for not backing up are uncertainty about what needs to be backed up and how to do it reliably. Geekometrics provides a full-service managed solution with no storage limit. Geekometrics does all of the setup, configuring, testing, and monitoring. Your data is even safe when you travel with your Mac or PC laptop. Call 630-759-9283 to talk to a specialist who can help you keep your data safe. 630-759-9283. Geekometrics, helping you keep your data safe.
We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it?
DINOVITE.com. Dinovite is nutrition.
The Dinovite will make your dog happy, vivacious, jump up and down, wag their tails. It will make you smile.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dinovite from DINOVITE.com.
It's the most important domestic issue facing America today.
Public education has gone off the rails.
Don't miss the powerful new movie, Whose Children Are They?
Critical race theory is dividing our children.
They're teaching these kids X-rated sex acts.
Learn how to get our public schools back on track. Watch Whose Children Are They at salemnow.com.
Whose children are they?
Whose Children Are They? Available now at salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
Safer USA, Chicago's most trusted name in firearm training, is offering beginners classes, tactical pistol and rifle, long-range rifle to 600 yards, and the most comprehensive Illinois concealed carry program available. AM560 On Target Radio co-hosts David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz will prepare you to carry a firearm for personal protection, including firearm, holster, and ammunition selection. A comprehensive law review designed to keep you out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook are provided. Safer USA and the Aurora Sportsman's Club invites you to participate in this one-of-a-kind Illinois concealed carry program that also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474. Safer USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own it responsibly is ours.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5787. 5600.
And we're back. And our guests this evening are David Shestokas and Christopher Von Cook. We've been talking about the First Amendment, but I'd like to sort of swerve off that course now for a bit. Christopher, you may have a job coming up.
Hopefully do.
Hopefully do. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the job, David's brought me on his team. He's named me to be his next deputy in charge of criminal prosecutions for the state of Illinois, a position that I have a lot of experience in. I served 31 years with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in the criminal division. I served as a trial supervisor. I've litigated over 2,000 cases with live witnesses on the stand. I have a lot of experience. I'm a university professor. I've taught in the criminal justice system for over a decade. I'm a police training instructor over the last 15 years. I'm a published author. I wrote a book on search warrants. This is experience that you need to bring to an office like this.
I don't think you're qualified. By Democratic standards, if you have more than a high school degree.
What do you know about consumer protection? That's what the Democrats want.
He knows nothing about toasters. Actually, you can. I think he knows how to put toast in the bread in the toaster and push the button.
So he can get toasted. That's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so all this hinges on, let's see, Shestokas. So you're running for
Illinois Attorney General.
Yeah,
and it's kind of exciting to do that. And one of the things that I'm doing as part of the campaign is letting people know what we're going to have in the administration in terms of talent. Because it's not going to be just me. We have 450 some odd lawyers that we will be managing, and among them, and we'll have different kinds of areas that we'll be managing. Criminal prosecutions among them. One of the more important things that this office will have to do is to take control of some of the crime aspects in the state. People don't understand often the fact that the Attorney General has authority over any case in which the people of the state of Illinois have an interest. Well, guess what? Every criminal case is captioned the people of the state of Illinois versus the defendant. And guess who's done? I've been involved in 10,000 cases and misdemeanors, 400 some odd felonies. The man to my right in the studio here has done at least 3 times as much as I have.
The interesting thing about the Attorney General, and you've pointed this out a number of times, currently the Attorney General acts like the private lawyer of the governor.
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately there's a misconception because the term Attorney General gets mixed up with the United States Attorney General, who is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. The Attorney General of Illinois is elected by the people.
And serves the people.
And as a result, serves the people. And this is why we want the people to know who else will be by my side, serving along with me. And we have talent like Christopher because of my own experience. I feel very, very honored that he's agreed that should I win, that he will be serving there. We have another fellow that's agreed to join us. His name is Terry Lemming. He's just a former lieutenant colonel of the Illinois State Police, assistant director, and he will in fact be the chief of our investigations. So Terry will be doing the investigations. Christopher will be heading up the criminal prosecutions, which, by the way, has just been a weak thing. Tell them about statewide grand juries, Chris. What those are supposed to do. You've been involved in those.
In terms of grand juries?
Statewide grand juries that they're not doing,
They're not doing the job that they should be doing by any means. They're
the fact is they're not doing any criminal prosecutions for all practical purposes.
And they're literally dropping the ball. There are no criminal prosecutions, and that's one thing that we want to address. There are state's attorneys around the state that are not prosecuting certain cases that they should be. Part of my job and my responsibility under Dave as Deputy of Criminal Prosecutions will be to look at those cases, determine that we want to investigate and potentially indict some of those cases and prosecute them at the state level, and pick up the responsibility that some of the local criminal prosecutors, like our prosecutor here in Cook County, she's dropping the ball and she's not prosecuting certain cases that she should be doing.
Well, and speaking of one other thing that Chris brings along, he knows the situation with Cook County very, very well. Not only his 31 years as a prosecutor, but he actually ran against Kim Foxx in 2016. Mm-hmm. He got nearly 600,000 votes doing that. So he's very, very familiar not only with the legal side and the aspects of what we need to do to bring these criminal prosecutions in line with what the law calls for. He also understands the politics of the matter.
One thing, and we got half a minute, but one thing that bears telling about January 1st, a new law goes into effect.
Yes.
And that, I think, is going to have a horrifying, literally, there's 600 people in the Will County Adult Detention Facility, most of whom on that day, they'll be able to walk out?
Yeah.
Yep. And they'll go free on the streets, which is going to make our streets much more dangerous.
It's insane.
Overnight.
It's absolute insanity. How could they even do that?
They have, and that's the last part of what they call House Bill 3653 going into effect. I've had some long talks with Sheriff Mendrick in DuPage County on this issue. They've had plans. They're putting plans in place, and the horrifying thing about that is that there's a whole bunch. He said about 70-80% of the people that come into the jail high and on drugs, and if they have to turn them loose like within 24 hours, they'll go back out on the street high and on drugs.
Sure. If people don't know what we're talking about, and we got to go, but the law is passed that you don't have bail anymore.
For all practical purposes.
For all practical,
cash bail will be gone.
You can take a walk, which is crazy, just absolutely nuts.
Nuts.
For nonviolent offenders, I get it. But all right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have action items, all that and more when we return with On Target Radio. You're listening to AM560, The Answer.
How many servings of fruits and vegetables do you have in your fridge right now? If you're like most people, the answer is simply not enough. But who can? It is difficult to keep your family stocked up with the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables every day without a daily trip to the grocery store. If only there was a way to get all the recommended fruits and vegetables into your diet. Balance of Nature is the easiest way to do just that. Balance of Nature utilizes years of scientific research to give you the most efficient way to eat your fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. We source fruits and vegetables that meet our rigorous standards of quality and quickly put them through an advanced cold, dark drying process, locking in the dense nutrient content. This food is then ground up and placed into capsules for you to take at your convenience. Make eating healthy easy by going online to balanceofnature.com or by calling 1-800-246-8751. And be sure to get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
Hi, this is Pastor Calvin from Christian Liberty Academy in Arlington Heights. Would you send your child to a school that taught 2 + 2 = 5? Why then would you send your child to a school that teaches girls can be boys and boys can be girls, or that humans evolved from apes, or that children should apologize or be embarrassed for their skin color, or teaches sexual perversion to children? Get your children out of godless government schools. We can help. For over 50 years, we have operated a Christian school in Arlington Heights, and we have served hundreds of thousands of families locally and across our nation, and even many foreign countries through our homeschool program. We have pioneered the modern homeschool movement, and we can help you from a single book to a complete curriculum or an on-campus enrollment. Visit ChristianLiberty.com to learn more or to schedule a tour of our excellent 12-acre facility in Arlington Heights. Take action today. Visit ChristianLiberty.com.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life. Stand by. Here's Gretchen with your action items for the week.
Safer USA is now offering classes in Geneva, Waterman, and Bonfield. Tuesday, May 17th, Illinois Concealed Carry Renewal Class taught by David. Saturday and Sunday, May 21st and 22nd, Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry as well as Florida and Arizona. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on register.
So, Christopher, you do some police training. Tell us
I do.
Quickly about that.
I've been doing police training programs over most of the last 15 years. I belong to a group called ILETA, International Law Enforcement Educators and Trainers Association. They're the world's largest group of professional police training instructors. I've been on their teaching staff. I literally teach the best of the best police training instructors around the world how to improve their own training programs. I'm very proud of that. I train locally as well. A month ago, I was training a group of police officers in St. Louis, Missouri.
Cool. So if we have a police officer out there who's in charge of training that want to get a hold of you, how do they do that? They
can call me on my cell phone if they like.
You want to give that out? I don't know.
Sure.
Okay.
If somebody wants to reach me, cell phone is 312-213-6951. It's on my business card.
Cool. And David, so this is like the big jump.
This is like a big jump. Yes.
It's a big jump. I see you at every fundraiser, everywhere we go.
Yes.
It's like you're cloned.
Yeah, I think there's actually a hologram, if I'm not sure. We kind of project those around. There was 3 different things going on, but people can actually find things at Dave, D-A-V-E, the number 4AG.com. That's Dave4AG.com. They'll find out more details about me, the campaign. There's also a press release dealing with explaining the situation with Christopher and Terry. You just heard more about Christopher. I hope that, I've been doing things and explaining for about a year to people about myself, but I think it's very, very important for people to know that the job is more than me.
It's a team.
Yeah, that it's a team. And this is not only an experienced prosecutor up there, but a guy that actually, in terms of we're dealing with the police officers, a guy that actually trains police and has this guy. I don't want to overstate the case, but the office will not just back the blue. We're going to have a law enforcement hotline for the folks that situations where they've done what they needed to do and put their lives on the line, arrested a guy and have the local prosecutor not prosecute him. We're going to have a hotline to respond. And we're going to have guys like Christopher answering the phone.
We want to reopen those lines of communication between law enforcement and the Attorney General's office.
What a novel concept.
Yeah, and this will be for the protection of the people of the state of Illinois.
Sure.
And so they can find us at dave4ag.com. There's a phone number there. There's more detail. There's more than you could possibly want to know about me. But I just wanted to mention that there are two other guys running in the primary. The next time either of them is involved in a criminal prosecution will in fact be the first. And one of the fellows at a different forum said, geez, you can hear a lot about the experience and whatnot. It's not that important because there's people in the office that have done this stuff.
Sure.
And I think it might be useful if the boss knew what they were doing.
How else can they run the office effectively if they don't have the experience?
Well, so the question that comes up to my mind, you got 20 seconds, so it's got to be quick, but you're a Republican. You still have to overcome the city of Chicago.
Well, for one, Christopher got 600,000 votes running against Kim Foxx.
And that answers that question. So, okay, that's great. We appreciate both of you, Christopher Von Cook and David Shestokas, for being in. Dave, always, we loved having you in. And next week, what do we got? We got something next week?
I don't think we have anyone booked for next week.
Okay, we'll probably book somebody between now and then.
I'll come back.
But, thanks again. Thank you for listening on Target Radio, and we'll see you next week, the same time.
Hard drives fail. Viruses destroy data. Having a copy of your work, photographs, financial records, and other important files is one step in a thorough backup plan. Geekometrics offers a secure online solution by placing a copy of your data off-site where it's safe from theft, fire, and unauthorized access. Losing photos and financial information is devastating. Geekometrics' secure online backup solution is a reliable way to back up important files. The most common reasons for not backing up are uncertainty about what needs to be backed up and how to do it reliably. Geekometrics provides a full-service managed solution with no storage limit. Geekometrics does all of the setup, configuring, testing, and monitoring. Your data is even safe when you travel with your Mac or PC laptop.